So
Niall, where are Dublin's underage? Where would you consider Dublin's underage to be? 17s and 20s currently. Like, is the future bright, or does work need to be done back there? I suppose we in Clare would be bemoaning the fact that we weren't successful, and now we're all Ireland minor champions after turning around, a team that got beaten by 44 points. Where are Dublin's underage situation at the moment?
Yeah, I suppose when you look at the minors set up the last few years, even this year, I suppose they were well beaten by Galway, Tommy. So there's a bit of a gap there, I guess. And our 20s, again, I think it was Offaly had beaten them. So, like, there's probably, if I'm being honest about it, you probably need to look at that system again and see where the shortcomings are. You would like to see more progress in that aspect. Like, remember when the likes of Liam Rush, David Tracy, some of these guys were coming through, like Dublin were really strong, at secondary schools level. I know Closh though have had success over the years, but that needs to be more consistent. Dublin have done really well in developing hurling from a participation viewpoint, but I just think there needs to be more work done around development. And there are lots of clubs in Dublin who are promoting hurling, but I don't know. I think that there's support needed around developing, like the coaching, the expertise. I think there's a lot of clubs who could do it, help developing more hurlers within Dublin. I think when you look back at my time playing with Dublin, like the likes of the O'Tooles were quite strong. We had, even Mark Stotts, O'Callaghan, St. Pat's, Palmerstown with Liam Rush and I think Shane Stapleton at the time. So you had guys coming from those clubs. That's probably not the case anymore, to be honest about it. And I know you have new clubs, like maybe, I won't say new clubs, but you've Nabarrogue supplying players now, and Aaron's Isle, and maybe that'll take a bit more time. But I do think, from a Dublin perspective, we do need to review particularly how we can better support the clubs in promoting hurling in the county.
You're not the first person I've heard say that, Niall, that the quantity is not necessarily an issue, but it's the quality of coaching that needs to go in, and like having the quantity is a luxury. If it's a matter of, I don't know, like they obviously need to probably look at GDAs within the county and getting more out and getting more quality coaching and get more quality coaching within the clubs. Is that kind of something like what you'd be thinking?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the element of it, and like a lot of the GPOs in Dublin are, to be fair, are promoting both codes. But I think when you look at development of hurling, and lads, I can only speak from my own experience with Kilmcrew Crokes, and we have huge amount of numbers. But what people aren't seeing is that like every Sunday or most weekends, like Chris Crokes hurlers go down to Kilkenny, Tipperary, Galway to play games, to play in little blitzes and to develop the skills. Crokes underage are probably quite dominant in terms of numbers, but in terms of getting that challenge, and when I say challenge, it's that optimal challenge. It's keeping those players playing the games. It's getting a different experience of maybe what hurling looks like in different parts of the country, and capturing the hearts and minds, as is what a few people have over the years have said here in Crokes, and I think that's definitely something that, if we're looking to raise a standard of hurling in Dublin, I think clubs need more support, because clubs do want hurling to thrive. But I suppose clubs are really comfortable in coaching football. Dublin is a football county, so I think clubs just need support around developing hurling and supporting coaches in developing hurling in those clubs. And I think that comes down to coach education as much as anything else.
Yeah, there's no getting away from it. Like in some county or in some clubs, hurling does drift within Dublin, and then some of the players there, frustrated with the preparation levels, will probably drift back to football. And a lot of clubs that potentially could be very strong at hurling, I think because it's more of a football county and it isn't looked after properly, they're just get a bit fed up with it. But I think there's always talent in Dublin. It's just we're probably per club not getting enough out of it up here.
Are the right people getting involved, Niall? I suppose we in Clare here would have always said that the work was being put in, and through development squads and that. But to have the right people involved at the top of the organisation or the top of the groups. We in Clare this year had Brian O'Connell, former Clare player, and Terence Fahey with the 20s, and it was generally agreed that I think the best people were involved who had the best of everything around them, and that reflected then in the team's performance. Are the right people getting involved in Dublin?
That's a good question, Tommy. And I know Colin Burchell has been sick asking I suppose players of my generation to come back and get involved. And I know people like Dotsy, Gary Maguire have got involved in some of those teams. Maybe more needs to be done on that. But certainly from a Dublin J perspective, I do think we need to look at not only, I suppose, past players, but also players or people who have the knowledge and the skills to go and develop that. I think when Dublin hurling, and that blueprint came first, there was lots of really good people. I remember like Mick Connolly driving that, and the work that was done on that, and that was based around participation. And there was, I suppose, key structures put in place. One of those being a number of GPOs in Dublin to promote boat codes. So that in a sense that box is being ticked now, but the question is around development now and standards and where that looks like, and maybe part of that, Tommy, is getting past players involved, but also people who have the knowledge and expertise around how to develop coaches and how to develop players within the county.
I suppose the big thing I see, we can't allow, and I know the result doesn't reflect Dublin hurling, but I suppose we have 8 or 10 counties that can win in All Ireland. We can't afford any county slipping back. I think from a general hurling point of view across the country, we've 6 teams in Leinster, 5 in Munster that have chances of winning the All Ireland. I mean, is the effort being put in by the GAA to bring up the standards? That's a general across the site. You hear different people say, it's a closed shop. There's only 8 teams that can win it. Does Dublin and the likes of Dublin have that real desire to go after an All Ireland, or is it just we will do our best and see it where it takes us compared to the football side of it?
Yeah, it's. I just saw a comment there on the dual player come up, lads, and I've kind of my experience at Wexford the last couple of years. I've probably ignorant to this. I did not realise the amount of clubs in Wexford who are dual clubs, and the amount of guys who play football and hurling. So, and if I'm being honest about it again, I don't think I think Dublin can succeed at both codes. I think the numbers are there, but I think there does need to be a strategy around development for hurling. So how we do that, what does that plan look like? Is that looking at development squads again? Is that looking at support for clubs? And I think clubs and indeed secondary schools, I think that there's an element of that needs to be looked at, particularly our secondary schools and players who are transitioning from primary school. And just a couple of weeks ago, I was in Croke Park, and you could see the fantastic work, with young kids getting a chance to play in Croke Park and represent their school, at that primary level. But I think the secondary schools one is maybe something that we need to get a better handle on in Dublin. And the dual thing. Look, I see it here in the Crokes, and both codes are thriving because I suppose there's cooperation first of all, and also there's hopefully good structure and good people in place who are developing those players. So why can't that be done across the board?